a lot of people saying you're a Nazi, and they weren't saying it in the same way as people would use the word Nazi back in the, even 10 years earlier, 2005 or the 90s. And I guess it's worth for the moment. I said this in another video and said it poorly, but it's just a fact. When I grew up, when I was in school in the 80s, in the very very early 90s, it was common for people to say that person is being a Nazi, or this teacher is a real Nazi about that, or these Nazis are keeping us, these Nazis are getting involved in everything. Statements like that.
Okay.
They're keeping us, these Nazis are getting involved in everything. Statements like that. Now, what they meant when they said Nazi was typically a very strict or stern person. That's why even in Seinfeld, if you remember, there's a character called the Soup Nazi. Now, at no point did the Soup Nazi express any kind of, genocide or eugenics or master race tendencies or admiration for Hitler or any of that. The Soup Nazi was the Soup Nazi because he was very strict. He had rules like no talking in line. No soup for you.
Yeah, the good
if
old
you
days.
break his rules. The Soup
just
Nazi,
about rules, huh?
Because Nazi meant somebody who was rigid.
Yeah, we found out the law didn't work, dude.
Hardcore.
We found out we were just repeating history.
And that's what it meant when I was
That's what we fucking found out.
Of course, I also knew that there were Nazis in the 40s, who were, part of Hitler's army and everything else.
Big
but
muscle.
Even a really strict person could be called, that person's a little Hitler, or a person's a Hitler. The word little Hitler meant kind of just like somebody who wasn't a big government official, somebody who was like a crossing guard, who was hardcore about rules. You call it like stop being a Hitler. And that was kind of a term people would throw around. In 2016, kind of again coinciding with the Trump rise to the White House, it started to change when people said, oh, he's a Nazi. They used the word literal Nazi. You may remember.
Oh, I do remember that. Yep, literal Nazi.
Literal Nazi. This person is racist.
What's up,
they started grouping back in the things that were, that were part of the Nazis in the 40s.
Take a nappy nap.
But and people objected to it. And then you had that kind of bullshit gaslighting. Well, if you're not a Nazi, you wouldn't object to me calling you a Nazi. It's like, okay, that makes no sense whatsoever. But fine. At any rate, I explain all this because the word transformed in meaning. In the 40s, it meant one thing. I don't know at what point between the 40s and the 80s it shifted. But I don't think people it meant in the 50s and the 60s. It's probably still a little raw. People went around calling each other Nazis because it said the McCarthy communism stuff and everything else more. But eventually, at some point, probably in the late 70s, I can't say for sure, I was too young to know.
So you do that?
And definitely in the 80s, Nazis became more of a funny insult or a casual insult. This persisted for a couple decades, and then it transformed back into literal Nazi, fascist, and it lost its meaning in a different way. I think the word Nazi had a very definitive meaning in the 40s, and then it kind of lost its meaning a little bit when it became a generic term for somebody being strict, and then it lost its meaning further when it became something to, basically you didn't want to say racist. Now people got over that as well later, but when people start calling each other Nazi, the big reason is, because it had been more of a casual term, cowards would use it because they couldn't easily get sued for defamation. And so people online are using that term. Comic creators are using that term. Dan Slott will call people that. And in many ways, it's a cowardly thing to do because it's basically a way for him to smear someone.
I didn't believe in white nationalism either, Perch, until I saw it online.
As that word got more serious and as it kind of transformed,
I didn't believe it either, Perch.
Start suing over that, then that's why you see it kind of quieting down or people hiding behind a block. Or
I could not believe the KKK had gone underground. I was shocked too, bro. I was shocked too.
have the same beliefs as of a Nazi soldier in the 40s. I'm not saying there's not white supremacy. I'm not saying there's racists. I'm not saying there's fascists. I'm not saying that there's all these kinds of things. But the majority of people who are called that because somebody is wanting to spear them or call them a name.
Let's go see the body armor.
For what it's worth, and the last time I mentioned this, it got me in a little bit of trouble with a few of you, but I mean no insult. I'll use the same word. I'm literally historying here. Sounds weird. I'm literally talking history. Back in the 80s, another term that was thrown around was gay. And gay meant, silly or acting stupid, maybe acting effeminate at times, but like something that was not gay.
Oh,
that is kind of just in the same way. And a gay has transformed from, pleasant or happy back in the 20s or early in the century. Let's go have a gay day. Let's go have a fun day. And then at some point, gay did become attached to homosexuality. And then it became kind of the catch-all insult that I just mentioned, again, probably during the same time frame in the 80s. When I was in school and somebody's like, you're gay. It meant nothing about your sexuality at all. It was purely somebody saying you're acting silly or that's kind of lame.
There's ballers in my territory, bro.
Welcome to All About Change. Now is a great time to check out my new book on activism, Find Your Fight. And then, probably in the 90s, that, gay kind of vanished as a term. And, sorry, didn't finish the term. It vanished from being a casual kind of insult that people would throw out, and it went to being a descriptor for homosexuality. And then, that's kind of where we are today. So back a little bit.
Well, either I marked the wrong spot, or it's not
here.
here.
Especially people my age.
Makes sense. That's an ammunition right there.
And they're like, ooh, it doesn't sound right. Like, people use the word queer to, it's not an insult. It's just it's a term, again, for homosexuality, for sexual preference. But
take it easy. You enjoying yourself?
They shot at me first. Fuck's sake. Fucking Johnny Law. There was 18 of them there. Good God. Not fair, bro. Whoa. These cops are serious, huh? Holy moly, bro. Holy shit, dude. They are on me. Holy shit.
That's what happens to words.
No, they are shooting.
So
1 star.
So the thing about
damn
these, as it relates to comics, is that to me it's a bit dangerous.
God.
Because I do think that if you're using the literal original definition of Nazis, somebody who is a white supremacist, somebody or at least into genocide eugenics,
let's go check it now.
Desires control and death. I mean, just somebody who's like a lot of really awful things.
You, my enemy?
I don't think that casually using the word benefits anyone. I think it ultimately normalizes things we don't want to normalize. You may severely disagree with Trump. You may disagree with his immigration policy. You may disagree with how he behaves and acts, and how he talks about race and everything else. And so I think if you were to call him an idiot.
Dude, he's literally sending troops into local. Okay,
I think it's better to.
Okay, I guess we have to wait for the actual camps to open, right, Perch? Yep.
Because
no, okay, yep. No, wait. You have to wait until they actually discover the camps.
I think it's a word either.
Right, Perch?
Deserves to be.
We haven't discovered the actual ovens yet. So you can't say anything until you actually fucking find the ovens. Right?
And then expand that to be
right, bro?
Votes a different way from you.
Fuck.
I just think I don't think that's right, and I do think that's dangerous over time, and I think it waters down history which is not to
not really.
I also think it leads
You guys just don't realize how fucking the Nazis were. You've turned the Nazis into some unbelievable thing, and that is dangerous. Because people can't believe that, yeah, they would be participants in something so
they are actually Nazis.
fucking bad. That's how it happened. Those Germans weren't fucking evil people,
I don't really know
Perch.
how to write a villain. I don't know how to give the villain good motivation, so I will just say, this guy's a Nazi, or this guy's a fascist, and then I don't really have to...
Exactly. It's easy to, yeah.
How his character's bad. I can just kind of like...
Exactly. Yeah, we know exactly. That's what it's for. Corporate fascism, corporatism. It's the same thing, Perch. I'm sorry you're a Nazi. I'm sorry you're sad that you're the fucking Nazi, bro. Wham wham. I know, but that's you. That's your character in the movie, dude. You're the Nazi. You're the good-looking dude in the fancy uniform, in the nice car. Remember? That's you. You're the Nazi with all the nice shit. I guess you guys forgot that part too, how the Nazis had all the fucking nice shit. Right? Forgot that part, I guess. You're the Nazi, bro. That's what corporations are, basically. It's fascism, dude. Jesus Christ, I'm sorry that hurt your feelings to find out what you... Please stop calling me what I am. Please stop. Please stop telling me what I am. Dude, fuck. Please, don't, please. It hurts my feelings when you tell me how fucking evil I am. It hurts my feelings when the slaves talk back. I hate it when the slaves talk back. I want all my slaves to be happy. I want all my slaves to be dancing when I go out. How come, Mom, Dad, how come the slaves aren't happy when they're picking the fucking cotton? Huh? Jesus Christ, Perch. Huh? They're supposed to be happy when we sit in our fucking nice white house up here on the porch. How come they're not singing songs? Shut the fuck up, dude, you evil piece of shit. God damn. Sorry, but shit, dude. Please stop calling me Nazi. Jesus Christ. Worst thing about Nazis is they want to be liked.
Bros are dope, man.
Jesus Christ, that's what makes them lying pieces of shit. That's what makes them Nazis. They're fucking lying, deceiving pieces of shit. They bury the bodies,
Nice car,
bro.
asshole.
Yeah. They're evil with a fucking Walt Disney face on, bro. That's the real evil. Is when you put a fucking clown's face on it. Fuck. Don't call me a Nazi. It hurts my feelings because you guys don't like me. Well, yeah, dipshit. This is blue jean territory. This ain't slacks. You're literally, get the fuck out of here. This is literally not your space. Get the fuck out. Go hang out with your other rich kids, bro. Well, I'm sorry. I'm triggered. I'm just so tired of the rich wanting everything. The rich want everything, dude. They want to be rich, but they want to be liked. It's just fucking too much, dude. Get the fuck out of here. Yeah. Oh, hey, watch your language. You're not old enough to say that yet. Yeah, they want everything, dude.
They let you drive that crap out of the junkyard?
I know. Are you stealing my car, bro?
You're trifling! Just doing this to help my man get back on his feet.
It's hard to drive. For the computer.
That's the one.
Did you just fix that car for him? Don't cheat.
You up in here smell banging.
Just shut up, lady.
Walks like a Nazi, talks like a Nazi.
I do a lot
Oh,
of
but
wild
trust
shit.
me,
I'll
it's
do
not a Nazi. Oh, no, no, no. Come on, dude.
The hose is out, homie.
When Israel bombed another hospital, probably the last hospital in
What is
Gaza,
this shit you're
they
drinking?
were bombing it,
I gotta call my pimp.
and they said it was a whoopsie. They didn't really. Oh my God!
Oopsie.
We didn't.
Oopsie, bombed
Not
the
exactly
hospital.
premium
I'm
liquor,
ready to
is
you
it?
Oh, my bad.
that was
Oopsie.
Man, this is so ghetto.
Well, it turns
Mishap.
out Israeli television in Hebrew, they tell you the truth about what
Man,
actually
you a true
happened.
friend.
And on the TV in Hebrew in Israel, they'll tell you according to
Look
Megatron,
at that
Israel
ass.
media and
Woo!
soldiers say it was approved by top brass to target the journalists and the medical
Check
workers
that
today at the
out,
Down
man.
for the
hospital.
hood. Shit,
That's
you
on
want
Channel
me?
14 in Israel. The strike was coordinated with senior command, and they knew before it was carried out. So, of course, we all knew they were lying. They've been
That's the
targeting
one.
journalists and they've been targeting medical staff since October
What's
8th.
cracking?
Okay, so Israel
this shit
is
you're drinking?
they're unbelievable war criminals. This is what they do. They're an
Look at this
evil
piece being
regime,
hemp.
committing evil for their
Not
own
Careful,
exactly
Jimmy.
premium
They're
liquor,
and
gonna
is
what
it?
drone strike your ass, you dumb motherfucker.
Benjamin Netanyahu comes out and goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, Mr.
Dude.
We're not at
Man,
war
this is
with
so
journalists. We
ghetto.
take every
Think
measure
I
we can to
fucking
protect
I'm not
journalists.
joking,
We take
bro.
every measure we can to protect medical staff." No, they don't.
Man, you a
Now
true
we're going to
friend.
find out they targeted him. So let's do the same thing here. Mute your mute your computer stuff, and play the video, and you can
That's
read it.
the
Okay?
one.
All right, you got it. Here we go.
Send that over here.
Okay. This is an incident that has been
What is
making
this
a
shit
lot
you're
of
drinking?
noise since this morning, but as of this evening, from the details we have gathered so far, it is explicitly clear our fighters acted as required. We are now publishing this after a conversation with the forces involved in the mentioned. They are claiming unequivocally the attack was authorized and coordinated with senior command,
These perpetrators are now being
and they were aware of it before it was carried out. Additionally, in recent days, in the Golani storm, on one of the upper floors of the Nasser Terror headquarters, an advanced camera has been installed that is observing them and apparently gathering intelligence in preparation for a terror operation that could endanger their lives.
It's thick over here, bro.
Furthermore, intelligence personnel understand that those operating it are terror operatives and therefore decide to carry out an attack to eliminate the threat. Additionally, the fighters we spoke with confirmed that armed individuals were definitively identified in the area that was attacked. And the attack was carried out by the IDF according to the procedures defined for us, using a single tank shell. So despite the hasty announcement issued by the IDF spokesperson about a quick investigation and regret over the alleged harm to innocent civilians, once again, the truth is revealed to be the opposite, much to our relief. And beyond the central part of the strip, activity continues in the north, mainly in Sabra and Zatoun neighborhoods, and well as in Jabala. The goal is to encircle the city of Gaza and begin operations there soon. But a big question mark hovers over the area. Why so far the evacuation of the population from the city, which was supposed to begin yesterday, has not started yet, and whether all the actions and statements are once again only meant to scare Hamas and
Empty the
convince them
ghetto,
to agree
dude.
to another partial deal. And this is how the IDF addressed the incident a short time ago. We remind you of the importance. Working as individuals, and we
we are beginning to decide on the research of Hamas, starting to decide on the research of Hamas, and beginning. That's what we end there.
Yeah, okay, so...
It's the best you got.
That's them admitting they targeted. They know they targeted. I showed you in the last segment. They on purpose targeted. So it's funny how they'll say one thing in English when they're speaking to the people they need billions of dollars from to keep this war going. And it's funny what they actually say in Hebrew on their own television shows. So yeah, and they pretend that they were targeting terrorists at a hospital. You know, a grenade could fall out of their pocket and land on their foot, and they would call the hole in the ground where their leg used to be terrorist headquarters. That's
All of life, man.
so there it is. And let's go to the next slide. Everybody knew. Yet they played blind. The soldier pulled the trigger, the general signed the paper, and the media painted the blood as fog of war. No accident, no mishap. This was a cold, scripted execution dressed in military jargon. Channel 14 confessed what the world already whispers.
Out of my way.
The order came from the throne itself, not from the chaos of battle. And the so-called media, those parents of empire, still try to baptize the massacre with the perfume of justification. But no sermon is needed for the awake. The wise of the world see the puppets dance and hear the master's whispers. Propaganda is a mask.
You don't need it now.
Is the chicken boy. And they gotta believe the evidence. First of all, wow, fearless. That's some pretty great writing right there. Anyway, so basically, when you listen to Benjamin Netanyahu,
you so kind.
Say, "Oh, it was a mishap," they're basically like evil Catskill comics, and all the punchlines are in Yiddish. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay. I'm not a Jew. I don't know if there's Malcolm. What's the difference between Yiddish and Hebrew?
I smell it.
We got an SPP in 74.
Yes.
I got that.
Hebrew is an ancient language that dates back to ancient times that I think was revived along with the Israeli state. Yiddish is a language spoken mostly among Eastern European and German Jews that is similar to German, but it has nothing to do with it's a European.
And is it? What did Yiddish?
Jesus, dude.
I don't know the details, but I think it arose probably after the medieval period, into the modern era.
10th century. Yiddish was in the 10th century.
10th century, okay. Well, Hebrew predates that by many centuries.
1500 BC is Hebrew.
Right.
So, okay.
Good thing you asked me. Then.
Why did they do that? Do you know why? Do you know why they did that? Why did they invent a new Jewish language?
Well, you're just gonna go ask Siri after you ask me to see if I'm right. I'm totally speculating, but you have a language that Jews can speak among them that other people can't understand, but throughout a significant amount of Europe, so it becomes their shibboleth, as it were, which is
Pigeon talk.
Indistinguishable, or is distinguishable from German or whatever the local language is.
It's a pigeon language.
Understand each other, but the other people can't necessarily. Of course, now we all speak Yiddish. We're all schlepping and and everyone schmucks and.
Puns? Is it puns?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, if you'd like to hear some comedic language, you can see me this weekend in Edmonton, Vancouver, and Calgary. And then I'll be in Chicago, Rosemont, Illinois, Fort Wayne, Indiana, Louisville, Appleton, Wisconsin, Hermosa Beach, Sacramento, and San Francisco. Go to jimmydore.com for links for tickets. Come see me on tour in Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, Appleton, Wisconsin, Rosemont, Illinois, Chicago, Louisville, Fort Wayne, Indiana, Hermosa Beach, Sacramento, San Francisco. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.
1 minute. I'm gonna turn this off so you can take a nap, okay? Take a little nap before school. You hear me? Just a little nap. Just a little nap.
What is this shit you're drinking?
I'm gonna save it. Right spot. Thing does not like the speaker.
You made me drop my wrist! You gonna stay cool now. You want me to shoot you as well? Welcome to America! Now stay cool. Give me that.
Get up here? I don't remember where it was at, bro. I thought it was right there. Fear on foot with the mouse is probably bad. Maybe I could be wrong. Seems like it. That's not here anymore.
Oh, you trying to get away now, huh?
Damn. Oh!
Now don't be an idiot.
Ah! Get back up here.
It's hard to hold down on the mouse, dude, and move it.
Ah, you so kind.
brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast,
You're a
please
sissy
visit
with a silly-ass car.
sqpn.com/give.
Who the fuck you think you talking to, bitch? Oh, it's on
Oh my God!
You're listening to episode 31 of Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World, where we look at mysteries from the twin perspectives of faith and reason. In this episode, we're talking
What
about
the? Wow, that hurt. No, that hurt just a little bit.
Yes, Jimmy Akin. Hi, Jimmy.
I was not prepared for that.
So Adolf Hitler
Come on, get out the car.
No, I was not prepared for him to pull a gun on me and start shooting. I thought he was going to get to a fist fight.
Racism, hatred, lives in the beliefs of differences that was born. So what was it that drove the person to become Adolf Hitler? What made him adopt these
What the fuck, bro?
Did any views on religion play a role in this? And there's a lack of information on this subject, which there's much less than you expect. And much of what you hear is wrong. And that's why we'll be discussing Adolf Hitler's origin today.
Ouch.
Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World. So, Jimmy, I understand that you've made a study of Hitler's religion for some time. What can you tell us about that?
Ouch, that hurt, bro.
It's something I've been curious about for a very long time.
Whip!
Sought out information about this just because it's this inexplicable.
Oh God, because I ran into you, dude.
You wrecked my shit!
Biographies of him, trying to find information on what he believed about religion, and I found very little. It was kind of weird. I even talked to people.
Think that I'm smarter than everybody I know.
And they said, yeah, there's
Dude, why are you fucking...
one of the things to discuss this is that religion doesn't really have anything to do with what is worldview. And that never struck me as plausible.
Watch it!
I can imagine someone
What the fuck
becoming
is
an
wrong with you,
authoritarian dictator without strong
I like a man who's not afraid to shout.
about religion, you know, of God and the afterlife. Those are the principal subjects of religion. I can imagine someone who's considered agnostic, but they end up in political power.
I'm having that.
They're afraid of losing it, and so they adopt authoritarian measures to hang on.
Come on, fool! Run away!
Even though they're not personally
I like to share too, thank you.
I can imagine. But that's not who Hitler was. He wasn't just an opportunist. He was an ideal one. He had a very specific ideology that was driving him and that he infected other people around him with. And the thing about ideologues is they've got ideas about stuff. That's kind of the problem. They're too fixed on a particular set of ideas as if they're the master key to everything. And so anytime you have
What
someone
the
who's an
fuck?
ideologue like that, they're gonna have some ideas about, and especially an ideologue who involves life and death, like the survival of this race and the death of another. Any ideologue dealing with matters of life and death is going to have some kind of ideas about God and the afterlife. Now, he may be an atheist. He may say, oh, there's no God and there's no afterlife. But that's still having ideas about it. And so, like, communist ideologues in the 20th century had definite ideas about religion. They didn't like it. But something had to be motivating them. And so it always struck me as, well, something had to be motivating Hitler as well. He had to have views on these topics.
You won't be needing this now.
It's really hard to find good information. I did eventually find a book that discussed some of this.
Don't waste my time.
I'll mention that book later on. Unfortunately, I ended up concluding it was not reliable. I relied on it for a time. To my embarrassment, I even put out a tape at the time. Part of my apologetic work that included some material in this book. But the more I studied, the more I thought about it, I said, this is well done. I need something of a scholarly nature that looks at this. And fortunately now, the situation has changed a great deal. Now with the internet, it's much easier to find information on this. Wikipedia's page on Hitler's religious views is actually pretty good. And I'll have a link to that in the show notes, as we'll mention. And also, there have been more scholarly books that have appeared and appeared in English as well. There's one in particular that is a recent book by a historian named, I want to get his first name right, I don't even remember his last name, Weicker. And it's called
Cock-a-doodle-doo. What do you want?
The Twisted Beliefs that drove Nazi Germany, but Hitler's Religion is the book by Richard Weikart, and it's a very carefully done, thoughtful study that interacts with the views of various scholars, where he tries to support his position and gives you the evidence.
Cock-a-cluckle-doo. Please place an order.
Space just enter.
Like my
Easy.
and speeches and private conversations, which is important to know, because as a politician, what
The chewy bits aren't harmful, sir.
In private doesn't always match what he said in public.
So what are the different claims about Hitler's religion? What do people say that all the different options are?
Well, they basically fall into four categories. The first one says that Hitler was an occultist or a neo-pagan, someone who wanted to bring back like the
Hey,
worship
what was you
of
saying?
Norse gods, or who otherwise dabbled with occult practices like astrology, religions about all kinds of occult stuff, even if it wasn't specifically neo-pagan.
So this is the Raiders of the Lost Ark theory.
Yeah, and there is an actual...
It's my constitutional right, bitch.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh my
Can
god.
I have this?
German group. We'll be talking about it in a future episode.
Just bad timing, bro.
Excellent, about the real-life version of that. But basically, so option one is he was an occultist or a pagan. Option two, he was an atheist. Option three, he was a Christian, and some will further refine that to say specifically he was a Catholic, even a committed Catholic. And then the final option is none of the above. Hitler was something else.
So obviously there's going to be a faith perspective on this, because that's what we're talking about. But let's start with the reason perspective, and kind of look at this from reason. What does reason tell us about Hitler's religion?
Well, so it is kind of, as you noted, it's a little unusual to talk about someone's religion.
Head to 1024 Central Camden. Suspect left in a through corridor.
Show about that. It's not.
What's your stupid ass move?
We'll get to that. Warning, he was wrong. But just what does reason tell us based on historical evidence about
Hey, babe.
basically, we don't know which of the four options. So, the first option is, was he an occultist?
I'm not in the mood for this.
Ideas floating
Don't you know what road
around
rage is? I'm gonna move my records now.
in Vienna, where Hitler lived for some time during his there were occultist and neo-pagan organizations
You
that
stupid
were
ass.
in Vienna. Publications that even some of the authors claimed Hitler subscribed to. One in particular, early on, he kind of said, "Oh yeah, Hitler's like a big fan of mine. Once stopped by my office and asked for some back issues he did." So you had that. Also, there were high-ranking members of the Nazi Party, including Heinrich Himmler and another guy named Rosenberg, neo-pagans.
Oh, now you blocked me.
And wanted to bring back the worship of Wotan. That's the Germanic version of Odin. And
That's very kind of you.
gods like that. So there were associated with
Please don't kill me.
one of the reasons that some people said, well, Hitler was one of these things people do. And that's part of one of the books that I mentioned was by an American journalist named Esty Sklar. And in her book, The Nazis and the Occult, she explores much of these connections. And later years, I found a bunch of documentaries that you can see some of her own lyrics that talk about the Nazi connection.
so kind.
Shit, I gotta work these streets.
So we need to look both at what he said in public and what he said in private. Because in summary, what he said in public, Richard Weicker, we all have Hitler's religion, which is the better one. He says that the some Germans were becoming unsettled at Rosenberg's and Himmler's
I need this more than you, I think.
ancient Germanic gods, rites, and shrines. Hitler reassured his followers that this did not represent their Germanic position, nor did it correspond with his own perspective.
That was his public stance on this.
Yeah. Now, does that match up with what he said in private? Because as a politician, he could be lying in public to keep all of those Christians on getting uncomfortable with Rosenberg and Himmler. But in fact, it does line up with what Hitler did in private. His architect, his favorite architect, Albert Speer, noted that in private, Hitler not only dismissed neo-pagan stuff, he mocked Himmler. Himmler was, even though he was an important Nazi official, he wasn't someone that Hitler kept really close or liked a whole bunch, and he was perfectly capable of mocking Himmler's neo-paganism. In fact, according to Speer, he recounts an incident where Hitler said about Himmler's religious efforts, "What nonsense. Here we have at last reached an age that has left all mysticism behind it, and now he wants to start that all over again. We might just as well have stayed with the church. At least it had tradition. To think that I may someday be turned into an SS saint. Can you imagine it? I would turn over in my grave."
That's quite a statement by him.
Yeah. Well, he was known for making some quite statements.
Oh, yes, this is true.
Also, Richard Weicker notes that, and this is a quote from his book, Himmler's military adjutant, Hitler's military adjutant likewise recalled that Hitler disapproved of Himmler's plans to reintroduce the cult of Wotan and Thor. In October 1941, Hitler ranted again about the foolishness of trying to resurrect the cult of Wotan.
Okay.
So, so we have good evidence that both in public and in private, Hitler was not on board with this occult neo-pagan stuff.
Why do people think that Hitler may have been an atheist?
Well, it's easy to characterize him as an atheist, in part because his behavior is so godless.
Right.
I mean, he led to the death of millions, and he had this kind of totalitarian state that's sort of a piece with, the communist totalitarian states that were arising in the 20th century. Nazism did not have a prominent religious component to it, and so it would be easy to say, okay, well, Hitler's basically the same kind of thing as like a Stalin or a Lenin or a Mao. He's this godless guy. He may not be as publicly opposed to religion as the others, but it's easy to read him as the same sort of thing. Beyond that, some of Hitler's contemporaries also described him in atheistic terms. One was an early Nazi party official named Otto Strasser, and another was Hitler's friend, Ernst Hanfstaengl, who said that, quote, "He was to all intents and purposes an atheist by the time I got to know him," close quote. Now, so you have some of his contemporaries saying this, but both of these guys turned on Hitler. Right. They did not remain friends, and it was after they ceased to be friends that they were saying this. So you have to take into account, well, maybe they're just trying to paint him in a bad light, now that they've turned on him. And notice that Hanfstaengl says he was, to all intents and purposes, an atheist, suggesting, well, maybe he was just very irreligious. He didn't practice, he didn't go to church, he didn't practice religion, he didn't pray, he didn't do stuff like that. When you add a qualifier like to all intents and purposes, that suggests that, no, there's really something there, it's just not very big.
So, given that, and then the statement to Speer that occurs to me, he says, we have at last reached an age that has left all mysticism behind it. That seems to indicate
a secularizing perspective. Yeah.
Okay, so what other evidence do we have on his views on atheism then?
Well, so he did refer to religion in public, and for example, in 1937, and so this is before the start of the war, he remarked that the German national anthem, Deutschland, Deutschland über alles, he said that this anthem constitutes a pledge to the Almighty, to his will and to his work. For man has not created this vault, that means people, he's referring to the German people. So man has not created this vault, but God, that God who stands above us all. So he is talking about God in public. Now, there's then the question, was this just political opportunism? Because, lots of politicians talk about God to win votes, even if they don't personally believe in it. So we need to look at what did he say in private. Well, here Weichert has another good summary. He says, was this just a pose for public consumption? Not likely. Hitler not only appealed to providence, which is another way of saying God. Hitler not only appealed to providence as his God.
Man, this is like you get what you.
I don't know why the user track. It doesn't always work very well.
My son is addicted to We Love Katamari. It's all he talks about.
Excuse me.
In many public speeches and in both of his books, but he also did the same in his private monologues with his associates. His closest colleagues also testified that he believed Providence had anointed him for a special task. So he sees himself as like this man of destiny who's been given a destiny by divine providence.
So that might indicate that he might believe in God of some sort, but not necessarily whether he holds some sort of particular conventional religious viewpoint. So why do people think that Hitler may have been a Christian and specifically a Catholic?
Well, he was baptized as a Catholic, as a baby, which was normal for people where he was born. 90% of everybody in Austria was baptized Catholic, so he was too. But he left the practice of the faith early on. His dad was like a free thinker. His mom was a devout Catholic, but his dad was like a free thinker, and eventually his dad's point of view kind of won out. He did get confirmed as a boy, but he, according to witnesses, it's like he did so very reluctantly, and like the priest was having to drag the words out of it. So like a lot of kids who get confirmed, he wasn't sincere about it.
Right.
And he then, as an adult, just stopped going to church, and he would only very rarely go to someone's wedding or to a funeral or something like that. But he didn't practice it in public, and he would mock in private the views of devout Christians. Now, his ideology, also Nazi ideology, was very strongly opposed to Catholic teaching. So much so that before the war,
that's where the
Pius XI issued an encyclical called Mit brennender Sorge, which is German for with burning anxiety, burning concern. And this was unusual that it was written in German, because normally
folks tried to tell you, dude,
in this period and then translated into German.
You were going to drive off a cliff.
But this one, they actually wrote it in German. And then it was this sustained condemnation of all this stuff that the Nazi state was doing. And they knew that the Nazis were not going to want this read. And so what they did in 1937, as I recall correctly, they smuggled it into Germany and had it secretly printed and then read from the pulpit of every Catholic church in Germany on Palm Sunday when everybody was there for Palm Sunday services. So they were like getting maximum exposure for this condemnation of Nazism. Needless to say, Hitler was
fanaticism, right?
But in any event, so despite the claims of some, the Catholic Church and is on a big collision course. And we'll actually discuss that in an upcoming episode where we'll talk about wartime Pope Pius XII and his opposition. But in any event, what we know is that Hitler early on abandoned the faith he was raised in. He did, as part of, in public, he would portray himself as a Christian, but non-denominational. He wouldn't, he's like, I'm a proud Catholic. He wouldn't say stuff like that. He would say, I'm a Christian, and all Christians, including both Protestants and Catholics in Germany, need to support the state. Even then, though, even in his portrayal of himself as a Christian, he hated Christian ideology, Christian belief so much that he couldn't help bashing it and reinterpreting it. So, like early in his career, he would say things like, I'm in favor of positive Christianity. And I was like, well, what's positive Christianity? Well, it turned out positive Christianity was a Christianity that portrayed Jesus as a great Aryan who fought Jewish materialism. And he then used this image of Jesus as a fighter to inspire his followers to also fight. So in 1923, he gave a speech in which he said, we must bring Christianity to the fore again, but fighting Christianity, which he said did not involve
same plan. The same plan. They're trying to use the church again, dude. They're trying to use the church again. Please be careful.
Concluded by saying, now is the time to fight with fist and sword.
Guard the church.
So this is what
guard the church from being hijacked by the emperor, dude.
Yeah.
He's going to try to use it.
Jesus was just bizarre. According to him, Jesus was not a Jew. So let that sink in for a moment.
Yeah.
Weikart notes that, quote, in April 1921, he told a crowd in Rosenheim that he could not imagine Christ as anything other than blonde-haired and blue-eyed, making clear that he considered Jesus an Aryan. In an interview with the Journal in November of 1922, he actually claimed Jesus was Germanic.
Yeah, this is like some of those problematic popular drawings that you see sometimes of like Jesus playing soccer with the kids with blonde hair and blue eyes. Sorry, Jesus was born in a particular place at a particular time.
Yeah. You guys don't do that. You're about to slip into heresy. You can't compare the people who live there today to the people who lived there 2,000 years ago. That's just as bad as what he's trying to do, bro.
It's OG Loc, homie, and I'ma kick a little something like this. Hey, yo, when I come through up in the place, you don't want me to come with a gun in your face.
I know,
I spit it hotter than anybody in the world could do. It's like I sucks. Damn.
It's true, though.
Damn, my shit was whack.
You look like a clown, dude.
Hey, what's happening, Lo? Hey, Carl. What up, man? Hey, dude. You ever thought about getting a writer to help you out with this shit? Yeah, I did. But who, homie? Who? Shit. I ain't in the rap game. You know, that ain't my thing. But, we have to think about something. Man. How about if I get somebody to write something for me, only they didn't know about it? What? I think I just might have found a ghostwriter. I become the reciter, all-nighter, all-writer. Mad Dog's rhyme book from his home in the hills. Mad Dog's rhyme book? Man, you said you helped, Carl. Come on, man. I'm hot like fire, all-nighter, all-writer. When I kick it, I'll do anything, homie. I swear that. Okay?
Particular people, right? And although he was okay with seeing Jesus martyred, one of his favorite things was the Bible stories, and he didn't like a lot of the Bible because it had un-Jewish stuff in it. But he really did like the story of the expulsion of the money changers, because he could make the money changers this symbol of Jewish greediness. And then when Jesus drives them out of the temple against his, I can portray Jesus as being a fighter now against Jewish materialism. So he really liked that story, but not so much the rest of the gospel story, all that mercy and love for your enemies, and none of that. He didn't want any of that. And he also didn't want. He would say, okay, so Jesus cleared the temple. That led to him being crucified, but then no resurrection. According to Hitler, this was according to his confidant Otto Wagner, Christ's body was removed from the tomb to keep him from being an object of veneration and a tangible relic of the great new founder of the religion. So he didn't believe in the resurrection. Jesus was just and that was it. Also, Jesus didn't believe in an afterlife. Hitler didn't believe in an afterlife, so obviously Jesus didn't have it. Hitler thought that you had, I'll just mention this briefly, I'll leave it all on it. Hitler thought that you somehow, the individual did not survive death, but the whole people did. So you could kind of live on after death for the impact you had on your whole. So if you did things to glorify and build up your whole, that was the only real kind of survival you could have after death. It was just the impact you left.
Nazism was inherently a non-individual. The individual was subsumed to the great ideal.
Right. So Hitler was in public professing himself, especially early on, a Christian. Although as his power grew, he largely dropped the positive Christianity business. He didn't ever criticize Jesus, but he had this bizarre version of Jesus that was just like his own thing. No historical ground.
So in public, and perhaps we might even say that publicly at that time, most people were still religious, and most people in Germany were Christian. So you maybe, as a Polish, you had to at least nod in that direction. But what was he like in private with the Christianity?
Well, so in private, the mask does come off, and here his private behavior does differ from his public behavior. He was being about supporting Christianity, although even then he hated it so much he had to do this bizarre reinterpretation. In private, as early as 1931, Weikert notes, Goebbels recorded that Hitler wished to withdraw from the Catholic Church, but was waiting for the right moment. Hitler's wish seemed to excite Goebbels, even though he admitted it would cause a scandal. But Goebbels relished the thought that he, Hitler, and other Nazi leaders would someday leave the churches en masse. And this was something that Goebbels actually wanted to do now. Goebbels had, as I recall correctly, a Protestant background, and he told Hitler he wanted to quit the official Lutheran Church. And Hitler told him, no, this isn't the right time. We'll do that later. And so Goebbels imagined, okay, we need to consolidate our power, and then once that's done, all of us Nazi officials can publicly renounce our faith without it harming us politically. And so that was his hope. And he says Hitler wanted to do that, it just wasn't the right time. Hitler also envisioned privately the demise of Christianity. In 1937, he told Goebbels, who was his propaganda minister, that he thought Christianity was dying, and Goebbels wrote in his diary that the Fuhrer thinks Christianity is ripe for destruction. That may still take a long time, but it is coming. One reason that it would take time is that Hitler felt the need to keep the German people united for purposes of fighting the war, which broke out in 1939. In 1941, he told his district lieutenants, there is an insoluble contradiction between the Christian and the Germanic heroic worldview. However, this contradiction cannot be resolved during the war, but after the war, we must step up to solve this contradiction. So he was envisioning a big persecution of Christianity once he had won the war. On the other hand, this didn't mean Hitler was an atheist. He privately told a Nazi newspaper editor named Hans Ziegler, quote, "You must know I am a heathen. I understand that to be a non-Christian. Of course, I have an inward relationship to a cosmic almighty, to a godhead. Close quote. So Hitler, based, and this is consistent with the rest of the evidence we've seen, he didn't buy traditional Christianity, but he also didn't buy atheism, or occultism or neo-pagans. He did believe there was some kind of God, but he was on this highly materialistic secularizing trend.
Yeah.
So, given all that, what could we say Hitler was? What was his religion?
Well, we've eliminated the first three of the options we considered, so that leaves us with number 4, none of the above. Hitler really didn't fit into the standard religious categories of his time. I mean, he kind of did. He was something else, if you want to put it that way. But this something else was sort of unique to him, but it was based on elements that were floating around in German culture at the time. Basically,
Oh, come on, dude.
Hitler was an eclecticist who would borrow one
No,
idea from one spot and one idea from another spot.
What's happening?
Stitch them together in his own mind. As a result of that, his position was based on elements.
Oh, we have a crash.
But it didn't have a name. So if we're going to name it, the basic answer is that we could say religiously, Hitler was a pseudo-scientific, evolutionary pantheist. That's the basics of it. A pseudo-scientific, evolutionary pantheist.
So let's break that down.
Come on, man. Close it down.
Part by part. Let's start with that last part. What do you mean when you say Hitler was a pantheist?
So pantheism is a view.
Really hard crash? How could that happen, dude? How could you crash my whole computer?
There's no distinction between the creature and the creator.
That is so weird.
A couple of Greek roots, pan, Greek, or pan, it means everything, or all.
No, it's not. This won't close. Come on, close.
Theos, which means God.
It won't close. I can't get Task Manager.
And its
to
defining
open.
characteristic is saying, okay,
No,
the universe
I can't get anything to display. Okay,
there
so
are different flavors of pantheism, some of which are
that's just frozen, dude. Scrapped everything. I don't know how it's allowed to do that.
Someone said that, okay,
I simply do not know how it is allowed to do that.
Because
to crash all your shit. How can it do that,
really
dude?
doesn't have a mind, it doesn't have intentionality, it's not conscious, it's not a person. Others would go in the other direction and say, okay, God is the world, but it does have